What can we do? What can be done? Well, one thing is becoming perfectly clear. There are just too many of us. Some of you will have to go. I think the people who wrote the Bible got God's message wrong. It wasn't go forth and multiply, it was go forth and add. I just saw a bumper sticker that read, 6 billion people can't be right. One thing that we can do, one thing that we must do, those of us here in the overdeveloped world, is chill. Relax, not do so much, not consume so much. Just be for a while. We're going to have to change our ways. Remember back in the 70s there was a movement called voluntary simplicity? Not enough people volunteered. So now we're going to have compulsory simplicity. You could call it the decline and fall. It's going to happen. It's no shame. It happens throughout history. Look back, you see empires like ours rising and falling at regular intervals. Mesopotamia, Babylonia, Egypt, the Mayans, Aztecs, Greeks, Romans, all once great civilizations and great empires, now just ruins that tourists climb around on and take pictures of. More recently, we had the European empires, Britain and France and Spain and Portugal. Just a few decades ago, the Brits were proud to say the sun never sets on the British Empire. Now it's just those chilly little islands in the North Atlantic. The sun never even rises on the British Empire. The United States inherited the European colonies, took them over with Coca-Cola and television and dreams too rich to ever be fulfilled, and now there's no question, we rule. But even now, at the height of our power, we are beginning to see the classic signs of decline. This is Edward Gibbon from his famous book, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. The cause of Rome's decline lie in her bloated and overextended military, her widespread economic and political corruption, her public apathy and hedonism, her addiction to and dependence on foreign resources. Does it sound familiar? That's because it happens the same way every time. Every time. So where are we on our timeline of decline? I think we are experiencing our era of crazy Caesars. Nixon, Reagan, the Bushes, Clinton's a little Caligula thrown in there. But take George W. Caesar. He's a classic crazy emperor. Howdy, arrogant, a bit of a buffoon. He's like Nero. The atmosphere is on fire, and he's out fiddling with his chainsaw clearing the brush. I have an image of George W. looking up at the sun and saying, "Bring it on." A couple years ago, in the midst of his failed wars, he announced that he wanted the United States to go to Mars. And in making the announcement, he said, and I quote, "It's time for humans to head for the solar system." What planet is he living on? But it's such typical imperial folly, the end of the fossil fuel era, all your leaders are in the oil business. And you don't send a big standing army out to fight guerrilla wars. Ask Alexander the Great, or King George of England, or Lyndon Johnson. As George Bernard Shaw once said, we learn from history that we learn nothing from history. The problem in the past has been that all the great empires have greedily hung on to their power and prosperity, causing great suffering for people in the colonies and in the mother country. What if we could see the writing on the wall and do this whole decline and fall thing with more ease and grace and consciousness? I have a plan. Very simple. Kind of channeled itself through me. We'd simply go to the United Nations and announce to the world that we would like to resign as a superpower. We see what's happening From now on, we'd like to be known as just an ordinary nation. The whole world would applaud. It would be great for us. We could relax. We wouldn't have to work so hard keeping a superpower economy going. You know, we wouldn't necessarily be the prime target of terrorists anymore. We could let down some of our defenses. We wouldn't have to spend $500 billion a year on our military, which, by the way, is more than all the other military budgets in the world combined. You know, there's really nothing to fear about losing our superpower status. Remember, Rome also didn't decline in a day. And while it was declining, a lot of Roman citizens probably didn't even notice it was happening. And a few centuries later, they started calling themselves Italians. They're doing fine today. Besides, ours would be the world's first intentional decline. So to help us ease our transition, the government could start some public works projects like the Roosevelt New Deal, only this would be the New Age New Deal. I envision a 5-year plan called the Great Leap Backward. So the government would start a Department of Meditation and Therapy, which would set up deprogramming centers around the country and teach hyperactive American workers how to be less productive members of a less productive society. The government could pay people by the hour to work on themselves. We could all work with the mantra, enough. Enough. We've got enough stuff. Enough. Enough. Yeah, it works. Construction workers could be put back to work on disassembly lines. Take apart the cars, separate the steel back into ores, and shovel it all into the ground again. The Army Corps of Engineers take apart the dams, let the rivers run free under the slogan, making the world safe for nature. Forget about democracy, nature. Maybe we could ask Egypt, Mexico, India, start a reverse Peace Corps. Send us volunteers to teach us how to live more simply. Teach us how to cook tasty meals of rice and beans. How to wash our clothes on rocks. And most important, when and how to take the siesta. And as we make our transition, in order to keep our currency afloat, what we do better than anybody else on this planet is entertain. The whole world loves U.S. entertainment. So as we announce that we are resigning as a superpower, we simultaneously invite the rest of the world to come and witness this historic moment, the world's first intentional decline and fall. We open up the entire country. The entire country as one vast theme park called Formerly Great America. The downhill ride to be spectacular. Chief Seattle, 1855, writing to the Great White Father in Washington. Tribe follows tribe and nation follows nation like the waves of the sea. It is the order of nations, and regret is useless. Your time of decay may be distant, but it will surely come. For even the white man whose God walked and talked with him as friend with friend cannot be exempt from the common destiny. We may be brothers after all. We will see.